T.B.Photo X1.5 to FX, and welcome back to another video. And this is a year of photography from digital to film and back again. Well, this is a little bit of a year in review, and well, as you can see maybe behind me here, a little bit of a book that started it all. About 1 year ago I did a little purchase on Amazon.com, and the rest is, as they say, history. But well, I have a little bit of a cheat sheet here because this is a little bit of an improvised video, but it's gonna be a year in review of my photographical journey. Well, in the beginning, as you can see, I found the Northrops on YouTube, then it spiraled to guys like some photography channels on YouTube that has inspired me to shoot photos. Jared Poland, Matt Granger, Kai and Locke from Digital Rev, Ted Forbes, The Art of Photography, Travis Morth, Forest Hill Film Labs, Christopher Frost Photography, the photographic Englishman Vicar, Trey Ratcliffe, Mr. HDR himself, and then the Speedlight King Zach Aries, Edurdo Pavels Goya, the guy who is a guru when it comes to film photography and has also, like me this year, started to develop film himself. Retired ad photographer Philip McCordle. Doesn't do that many videos that frequently, but what he does is actually really interesting. Ed Vorosky, New York-based photographer that like me, likes Mamiya and photographs medium format and so on. And that is just to name a few of the photographers that has inspired me during this year in photography. And yes, we can't forget also, love him or hate him, the angry photographer Ken Wheeler. Well, say what you want, but the guy knows his stuff about lenses, there is no question about that. But that's just a little bit of the photography channels on YouTube that has inspired me. And if I have forgotten any of them, please excuse me, but there are so many, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of the guys that has inspired me to shoot photos. Excuse me. Well, I can't believe it's been a year since I started photography, and in this short time, this is just some of the things when I start to go through in my head that what have I been able to accomplish during these few 360 something days that I have been into photography. Well, I started with the D7200, the camera that is filming this video. I did some nature and some landscape shots, I won the Wheel of Frome, got a year's subscription for free for audio blocks that has been, all the music in my videos that I've done this past year on YouTube, all is from, audio blocks. I also got from, graphic stocks and, all three of the block series of websites. But anyway, it's audio blocks that I have used the most. I got one of my images printed on a poster for a local band. I mean, not being that, adept in photography and having one of my pictures featured on the poster, the band Mass Diversity, really recommend them. Link in the description to their band YouTube website. Really enjoy it. I think they have an album coming out the next year, so really enjoy them, among others. I got a picture shown on Matt Granger's channel. I think it was Technology, and it was this very camera. I took a shot of a train, a black and white image, so I'll feature it here in the video as well. I photographed for my local martial arts clubs, both ninjutsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and Nordic Open a few weeks, or rather a few months back now. Time flies when you're having fun, right? So, photographing for my martial arts club, so a little bit of competitions and so on. I got an idea for HDI2R with the merger between HDR and IR with the D7200. Even though it's not converted into, you know, a IR spectrum camera, you still can do IR photography. You just need a really long, shutter time. So that's when one of Tony Northrup's little gizmo ideas, or rather recommendations, the timer, was invaluable, because then you can do 15-20 minutes of exposures. So yeah, kudos to that. And I've had the opportunity, the unprecedented opportunity, and I will be eternally grateful for having the ability to shoot some really cool and talented musical acts and musical bands in my hometown this past year. It's everything from already mentioned Mass Diversity, Northern Ladies, Moth, We Are Authority, and also some more famous Swedish bands like Skitari, and also people like Stone Rider and so on, and Knocking Lost John, and a whole heap of great talent in music. So that I'm gonna be eternally grateful for having the opportunity to shoot. Excuse me. And then I departed a little bit from digital, even though the Nikon D7200 is my mainstay camera. I got into medium format, both with the camera I have affectionately named Godzilla, the RB67, and also this little beauty that is on the table, the Mamiya 645 Pro. It's not the Pro TL, it's the original Pro. Only difference is that the Pro TL is metering for flash, TTL flash, or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, I got in touch and got into the local photo club. So been in that for a year, and it's been extremely beneficial. I got semi-interested in lomography, a little of all of the things that is on this table, which we're getting to in this video as well. I got my own website thanks to Squarespace. The best way for someone to get a website up and running, no coding skills needed. Thanks to both the Northrups and Jared Poland, who got me aware of the existence of Squarespace. So kudos to them for hooking me up with it. But anyway, I started developing at home, and this is something I never thought I would ever do, because it seemed a little bit daunting, the task of developing your own photography at home. So I've now done both black and white and C41 color negative development at home, and I've mostly exclusively used Tetanol. So that's a brand I can really recommend for anybody that is interested in starting to develop at home. Tetanol. Well, and all of this that I've been able to do in 1 year with photography, well, all because of a camera, the eagerness to learn, and some tips from some wine-drinking New Yorker named Gary. In other words, hustle. And for you guys who don't know out there, it's that Gary Vaynerchuk. Anyway, well, this year also, we're gonna depart a little bit now, and what has happened photographically this year, 2016, that has been worth noting with photography? What has been the big milestones in photography of this year? Well, here's a little bit of my personal summarization of what has been the most notable photographic things that has come out of 2016. Well, we started this year with CES, Consumer Electronics Show, where I think the biggest thing was that Kodak announced that they will redo, or rather, they will do a new Super 8 camera and that they are starting to push Super 8 film again. And then we had the year's biggest event of photography, Photokina. Even though some photography equipments have been announced already before Photokina, this was a Photokina year and we had a ton of new stuff coming out. I mean, Nikon, whatever you want to call it, they came out with 2 new flagship cameras, one for their full frame and one of their for DX. It was the D5 camera, the Protog choice, you know, that is basically now a machine gun of still photography. It's so bloody fast. And then they basically took a D5 and shrunk the sensor down into the D500, which has now become the #1 wildlife camera of 2016 in my opinion. But anyway, then we had some sad news. Fujifilm announced that they are stopped making pack film for pack film cameras. So all of you Polaroid land camera aficionados out there, I'm so sorry for you, but things can look up, because one other thing that happened this year was that the Impossible project of the Netherlands, they wanted to buy the equipment from Fujifilm, but they were not allowed to. But now also Cat Labs and some other New 55, I think their name is, all of them, and I think maybe Impossible, they are looking into remaking pack film. So I think this is just going to be a hiatus for pack film, and I hope really that it will be back soon. But anyway, Fuji didn't just disappoint us this year with the cancellation of pack film. They also did 2 bombshells that not revolutionized, but they did a game changer, or not game changer. All of these are played out words, but they have announced 2 cameras this year that really, stirred it up in the camera industry, in my opinion. First, they made the XT2 that replaced the XT1, and this camera was really made so that all the feedback, the customer feedback was taken into consideration when doing the XT2. And also at Photokina, they stole the show with the annunciation of the GFX, the medium format mirrorless camera. And this is has now been the contender, or rather the challenger, for a camera that came out earlier this year. I'm Swedish, there's no secret about that, so the nation of Hasselblad. So Hasselblad came out earlier this year with their own mirrorless medium format camera, the X1D. So a lot of people, a little bit of mixed feelings about it. Some people say it's very much of a minimalist camera, it's that Nordic design and so on, while Fuji with the GFX, they went a little bit, the same route. It's more or less a beefed up XT1. The whole thing with those Fuji cameras, it seems that Nikon a few years back tried to do the DF, which fell flat quite hard. So it's almost like Fuji took the lessons learned from the almost failed Nikon DF and made it right. And now we'll see what it will go up when it goes up against the Hasselblad X1D. We'll see what the future holds. But anyway, also at Photokina, Hasselblad showed the world the concept camera. Keep in mind, concept camera, V1D. And also, Nikon gave away a lot of gave away to Tamron and Sigma by overpricing their own new Nikkor lenses. As I think it was Jared Poland that said it, that Nikon designed this lens not to sell. So yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer. But anyway, that's good for third-party lens manufacturers like Tamron and Sigma. And now Canon. I don't think there has been any other camera manufacturer that has gone such a roller coaster ride this year and caused so many flame wars in the comment sections like Canon has this year. First of all, they announced the 70D's successor, the 80D, not 80D. I think all English-speaking reviewers of the Canon systems, they've all done the same blunder saying ADD. It's not attention deficit disorder, it's 80D. So you almost have to say it like that. You can't say it in one word. You have to space it in between, so it's 80D, nothing else. And also, they dare I say this because I'm gonna cause a flame war, because this is the most polarized camera, in my opinion, of 2016. It's the Canon 5D Mark IV. It's almost like duck and cover when you just mention it. 5D Mark IV. Is it a bad camera? No, it's not. Is it a huge upgrade from the 5D Mark III? Nah. It all depends on what you're going to use it for, but as some people have suggested, the real Canon new camera, new kid on the block this year was not the 80D or the 5D Mark IV, it was the Canon M5 Micro Four Thirds camera. That was basically the main new camera from Canon this year. And also, one other lens manufacturer, a third-party lens manufacturer that start to, like Samyang before it, have started to climb up and gain traction, and I think the ball is starting to roll when it's getting more and more popular, and it's the Lauer lens lineup. If you go and watch Christopher Frost photography, he has done a ton of Lauer reviews. I think Matt Granger, from one of his videos from Photokina this year, he also took up the Lauer lens line, and now I think I have to do a jump cut here because we're having a little bit more things that we want to take care of, and so much to do, so little time, so just bear with me. And we're back. So yeah, Lauer, the lens lineup for them, I think they have actually started to make lenses that no one else has really thought about. I think their flagship lens that gained the most traction this year was their wide-angle macro lens. Yeah. Also, you notice that lomography has gained more traction. They have done some more cameras like the, what was it called, the CinemaScope, or some kind of a smaller 35mm cinema camera that is hand cranked. So they're still up to their usual little tricks and gadgets and so on. I think they did a iPhone or smartphone film scanner and so on, negative scanner. So lomography, they're gaining traction, not just as lomographers are snapping away at the streets, but also, with their own contemporary film lineup. So for all you photographers out there that look down on lomography and so on, or if you have any interest in film, lomography is, with Impossible and some other small manufacturers like Ilford, they are keeping film alive, so that's kudos to lomography. But anyway, that's a little bit, but lomography gaining traction. And then we basically have the photographic, subject of the year, the supermoon. I mean, the supermoon, it was not that long ago, but the supermoon must have been one of the most photographed subjects of this year. And also a few bombshells that will drop now in December this year in photography, or other photographers, or what should we call it, two pitchmen, or the I don't know what the saying is in other nations, but when you have a couple, or rather two people, that are known to be working together, like Thompson and Thompson from Tintin and so on, we have a Swedish word for it. And these two guys were the incarnation of this word, radarpar. I'm gonna do a caption what that means in other languages. Radar couple or something like that. Radarpar. Anyway, Kai and Locke are no longer working for Digital Rev. That's probably one of the saddest news of the year. So Digital Rev is not going to be the same without them, but I know that Kai, on the other hand, has already set up shop again in merry old England and is producing videos with the same color and his colorful language to do more in the style that we all know and love from him. So yeah, that's good for them. And Locke, I haven't seen that much of him lately, but we'll see what the future holds. It's a new year and a new fresh start for most of us soon, so we'll see what the future holds. And then the bombshell of the year. The Australian protog and seafood lover Matt Granger is moving and setting up shop in NYC. He's going to the U.S. and this is just, wow, the possibilities. It's going to be closer to Northrop's, it's going to be closer to Casey Neistat, it's going to be closer to what are the name, Ted Forbes, is going to be closer to Jared. The possibilities now for, and this is just me wishful thinking, there is no possibility that this might be a reality, but just in my twisted mind, I can just see the collabs, running like crazy, like wildfire, different collabs between famous YouTube photographers. That would be amazing. But anyway, that's probably the bombshell news of the year, that Matt Granger moves to New York. And that's cool news. But anyway, and also as you can see probably on this table, I started out this year doing digital photography, but my fascination with film grew strong this year, really. So I'm gonna close this out with a few of my personal picks for film stocks that I would really recommend to all people remotely interested in trying to shoot film again. And this is both color and black and white. We're gonna start with the black and white films. If I'm gonna do one, shout out to a company that I don't think that many people know about, but I think produce brilliant film. I develop it myself, I never have any problems with it. It produces quality negatives, and it's all around one of my personal favorites. It's the Czech company Frome, and as it says here, they have been in business since 1921. This is the Fomapan Classic 100 ISO. This is in 120. They also exist in 35mm, but this black and white film is underrated in my opinion. It's wonderful. I guarantee if you try this black and white, you will not be disappointed. It also exists in a 200 and a 400 ISO version. So that's my number one pick for, just a great film. And secondly, this is kind of a specialty film, but really recommended. It's cool. It's I got a few bricks of this actually in the late autumn, so this is really a spring/summer film. It's Ilford SFX. This film actually went on a hiatus, but backed by popular demand, Ilford and Harman Technologies had to reissue it. So it's the Ilford SFX 200 ISO IR extended spectrum film. This film has a dual purpose. First of all, you can use it as a normal film, but if you put a IR filter on your camera, and I've done this with the RB67, this film becomes a IR spectrum film. So you can get really interesting results with it. You can turn the sky almost black, and everything that reflects IR light really pops out, and it becomes a really high contrast film. Really interesting effect in black and white. Really recommend it, and using it with an IR filter, really interesting. And then the a lot of people talk about Kodak T-Max, that it's some of the best grain structures of black and white film there is today. But I would suggest an alternative to T-Max, and it's Ilford Delta 400. This film is really interesting because it is pushable. You can push this up to 800 or 1600 ISO, but this, and I think Ilford says it on their own website, that this 400 speed film has a grain structure that is normally associated with 100 speed film. So it's a fine grain, higher ISO film. So that's really interesting, and I would really recommend it. This is, it's the former, when press photographers shot film, this is what Ilford themselves recommended for press photographers, to give that, Pulitzer quality. And then one film that I don't really have any stock left of, I think this is the best for the beginner. This is also a black and white film from Ilford, and it's the best for the beginner, and it's a really push and pull friendly film, and it's the HP5 400 ISO film. The HP5 is it's the best beginner's black and white film in my opinion. So really push and pull it as you want, and it's really interesting. And now we're actually going to go over to color negative instead. Well, first of all, my personal favorite. This is my personal favorite when it comes to color film thus far. Kodak Ektar. This is a 100 speed film, and it even says on the box, world's finest grain. That's not really why I am so fascinated with Ektar. The reason I love Ektar is the saturation. This is a high saturation film. The color saturation is immense. When shooting this through both the, something like the 645 Pro or the 6x7, it delivers, negatives with a color that is unmatched. So if you're going to do landscapes, if you're going to do any type of, not really portraiture, but any type of photography outdoors or indoors, it doesn't matter. This is the best with the high saturation. I just love it. I really love the high saturation of it. If it's not, I really do. But then after this, again with lomography, you can get in great deals now on eBay when it comes to expired film, and just because film is expired, it doesn't mean that it doesn't yield interesting and cool results. I mean, lomography is almost always about crappy camera, or rather crappy in quotations, the Diana F, the Holga, and all of those cameras. But what about using expired film, lomography or other brands with high quality cameras like the Mamiyas, the Hasselblads, the Rolleiflexes, whatever you want to call Yashicas? What do they yield? Well, for instance, I have two examples here of Kodak Ektacolor Gold, the 160 and the 400. These are awesome low-mo films. I mean, they, depending on what you need them for, if if you're outdoors, the 400, if you're, indoors 400, outdoors the 160, with flash or adequate lighting, they produce some really interesting, cool results. I mean, they have that warmth to them. The developer I'm using is Tetanol, Tetanol's Color C41 developer, and these films, you get that really, warm, in white balance. They're a little bit to the yellow side when you're using incandescent lights indoors and so on, but you get a warmness. And what I like in the overall look with expired film is that you get a almost painted look with them, that the pictures looks more like paintings than photographies, especially when you use quality cameras. But anyway, if you get the chance, try this Kodak Ektacolor Gold. And also, speaking of Ektacolor, these that I've shown in a previous video with the Zenit TTL camera, the 35mm Kodak Kodacolor. I mean, this film, this is expired. It's a 200 ISO, and this also gives that painted look. If you see my former video, or rather if you go into my website and look around there along my artsy galleries, you will see what this can yield. And it's one of those where you get that, you got that, the film look, and it's so different from digital that it's scary almost. Digital, nothing bad. This is digital that I'm recording myself with, but film has that certain something that you can't really put your finger on. And this film got it in spades, and it's expired. Yeah, anyway. After this one, you have this. I think the German film brand that, I don't know if they're around anymore. I've heard a lot of things that if they are, went bankrupt, or if they are still in business. These are unfortunately are also, or fortunately, are also expired, but they still yield beautiful negatives. It's the Agfa Optima 200. And what is so good with this film? Well, Agfa was famous for having reproducing realistic colors. The Ektacolor, or Ektar rather, can produce almost a little bit of an unnatural color because of the high saturation. Agfa, on the other hand, a little bit more muted. But if you're out for that, I really recommend it, because as they say, Agfa, when you want the true colors to speak in your pictures. So that's what that film is great for. So I can really recommend it. And then we have lomography. I mean, lomography's own color negative film. They also have slide film, which you can cross-process if you're into that. Analog love, really. And this is, lomography, yes, they are associated with the Dianas and the Holgas of the world, and the original Lomo camera, but their own film. I mean, I read about this on forums and so on, and when I've shot a roll of it myself, I can know nothing other than agree that this film has similar qualities to the Agfa. It has a very, natural color rendition, and, doesn't it say anything on the box? They usually never leave your film loaded in the camera for long periods. Yeah, join the lomography community at lomography.com, and so on and so on. But anyway, if you want a cheap color film to just get your feet wet with color film photography again, I would really recommend the lomography color negative film. It's really interesting and has a really interesting look. The first roll of this that I developed myself was a bit expired, but really, give it a chance. It's really good. Excuse me. Damn cold. Even though we haven't had that much snow this year, the cold weather still makes a little bit of havoc. Excuse me. And then we have another lomography film, and this is probably one of the most interesting ones. Lomography Red Scale XR negative film. This one is interesting because it's ISO dependent. As it says here, you can use this between ISO 50 and 200. It says here on the back side, Lomography Red Scale or XR film, offers a very high exposure range. Different exposure settings produce different results. Rate the film as ISO 200 for super intense red and orange color, rated at ISO 25 to mix additional tones of blue and green into your images. So even if it says 50 to 200 on the front, on the back it actually says rated as ISO 25 to mix additional tones of blue and green into your image. So this is a really interesting film from Lomography, and also a little bit of the most underrated. This is the one I've actually gotten a lot of good deals on. So if you're into something experimental and want something that is old school but also now a bit new school, this is the one I would recommend for you. And also, last film I have here, that's Svema DS4. I mean, this is an old made in USSR film stock. You can still get these on eBay. They're not that insanely expensive. It's a 50 ISO film, and since these have been expired for a couple of decades at least, well, this is gonna be one of the longest videos, but or rather one of my longer videos, but it is the year in review video, so that's all of that matters. But where I were about to start when we got interrupted, it was this. If you're into hardcore experimental low-mo photography, this is what I would recommend for you. The Svema DS4. I mean, this is a 50 ISO film. It was made in the Soviet Union. It's an old Soviet film stock, and it's been expired for a couple of decades at least. And what type of when you develop this in C41, what type of pictures does it yield? Well, I'll show you a few examples with it. I mean, I can just think of one term to describe this film and what it yielded, for me at least: color mosaic. So yeah, that's what this film would yield for you. That was at least my experience, and you'll see in the examples, color mosaic for a old Soviet era film. Yeah. Well, this is a little bit of the film stocks that I've been using this year, but one film stock that I know that Lomography has done a little bit of experimentations to do false versions of it, but I don't think it can really compete with the original. There is one film stock that is a little bit fabled now, and that I wish would, if I would have a Christmas wish this year, I would wish that this film would come back, because it fits the Lomography principle and today's new age vogue with color film photography. It will fit it to a T, and I would really hope that the company that was famous for making this film would start to make it again, because with all the experimentation and the entire community with Lomography and the street photography and experimentation, and that this old technology is starting to do a comeback, like vinyl records, I know that this company might be open to it, because as I've stated previously in this video, they have shown interest in being in this retro vogue, this retro age. And it's a Kodak film that I think that If you have ever seen the first record cover of the Jimi Hendrix Experience, you have seen this color film. I think it was some photographer that when this film was stopped, when they stopped making this film by Kodak, he did an entire exhibition from the Congo or something rather with this film, and it's the Kodak Aerochrome 3. It was the film stock number 1443, and it's a false color infrared film. I mean, lomographers using that film, it would yield some really cool and psychedelic and experimental results that I really think it's a shame that it isn't around anymore. So if anybody decision making at Kodak ever sees or hear this, please, if you want to be a hero among lomographers and photographers that is still using film, I mean, Ilford had to reissue the SFX 200 because it was backed by popular demand, because people wanted, they really wanted a IR sensitive film. And when Kodak had such a immensely experimental psychedelic film that was not just IR sensitive but a color IR sensitive film, I think it would be a masterstroke on their behalf if they for 2017 would reissue the Kodak Aerochrome. The entire backstory of Aerochrome is so fascinating that it was a order from the U.S. Air Force that they needed a reconnaissance film that could take color infrared pictures. So Kodak made this false color infrared film stock number 1443. So that's one of the film stocks that I wish would be reissued, because I would love to shoot it, and most of all shoot it in 120 film format. Well, 35 would also suffice, but just the ability to shoot Kodak Aerochrome 3. But anyway, that's everything that I had planned for this video. A year of photography in review, my own development, other people's ventures, some photographic news internationally, and film stocks that I've been able to use throughout this year. But anyway, this is Tobias Bergström from T.B.Photo X1.5 TFX, and I will wish all of you a happy non-denominational winter holiday. So I'll be wishing you all a merry one and a happy new one and everything in between, so that everybody is happy and so on. So basically, I'll see you in 2017. Have a good one. Goodbye.